Quite a lot of fallen branches here today. I'll clear them up. That's where I want to be setting up my tent for tonight. Lovely day today. About 30 degrees, middle of June. We're having a campfire here tonight. I'll bring tea on there. And hopefully I'll make a start on a shelter, perhaps between those two trees. Not quite decided yet. Okay, so I'm going to take a quick wander around the woods now, show you a bit more of the woods. That's where I've set up my tent. And that's the campfire there. I shall be cooking on later. It's about 6 PM now, so I'll have to get food on soon. And through the trees up there you can just see some hills. That's the Long Mynd up in Shropshire. Very popular with walkers and mountain bikers. I've probably not been up there for about 20 years, but I shall have to get up there and have a walk. That's a little path going through my wood. I'll go along there in a second. I'll just show you the track first. When I've got the Land Rover, I bring it up the track. So that's track going through the wood, down the bottom there. You can just about see my Fiesta where I parked, so it's really not far to come from there back up to my little campsite. Further up the track there is another campsite which I'll show you. I'll just go along my path rather than up the track. Sorry if the camera is a bit shaky while I'm walking along the track. You can probably hear the traffic. I can't see the cars, but the road's just down there, so I'm sort of on the edge of the wood here, but it does go back quite a long way that way. Just the most convenient place for the campsite really. And there was already a campfire set up there when I bought the wood. There are deer here. I've not seen them, but I've seen the tracks, so maybe one day I'll catch some video of deer. Obviously there's rabbits and squirrels and stuff like that. Only grey squirrels, no reds around here. Plenty of dead wood for starting fires, nice and dry, especially after the weather we've been having recently. And low branches that I just hit my head on. So the wood's about 3 acres. I bought it 3 years ago now. Just as somewhere I can come, I can camp, I can do my bushcraft, I can light fires, do whatever I want without some campsite owner telling me what I can and can't do. So just up here is a stack of logs. This is where I had a tree fall down. There's the logs after I cut it up. I did also do a video on that. A short one. It was earlier in the year, or maybe last year. That's where the tree fell down onto the road. You can just see the road. And this is back up the track on the other side of the gate. The campsite's just down there somewhere. And the wood continues up the track along here. So all this is my woodland, the road's over in that direction. And it goes up a hill in that direction. Just take a wander up here towards the second campsite. Not really used that campsite yet, but there's a guy in the neighbouring wood who's done a lot of work. I think he's semi-retired. He spends a lot of time up here. This is his wood. Prior's Holt wood it's called. And he did quite a lot of work on the track, putting the gravel down and stuff, so he can get his own vehicles up here. we have shared access to this track, and you can see he does a bit more serious work here than I do. He's got wildlife cameras up in the trees to catch anything that might come by. That's why he's got CCTV warning signs up on the trees as well. Don't know if you can see that. Zoom in. So he's got all sorts of wildlife cameras on various trees around here, and he's got the warning signs up. I think that's just a legal thing. I'm not too worried about people stealing anything here. He's got a little shelter built there. That's a toilet block, I think. And this track up here is sort of the border between my wood and his. So his wood's all lovely and neat over here, and mine's a right mess over here. So this is where my second campsite is. As I say, I haven't really done anything with this yet. It's totally overgrown, but there's a place for a fire there. I've got a bit of corrugated iron, keeping some firewood dry if I want to have a fire up here. At least I've got some dry wood. A couple of oil drums. I've got a few tools stored in there at the moment. And I've got a path going through the wood here. It's nice and shady in here. On a really hot day, it's so much cooler when you're wandering through the woods. You're not going to get sunburnt. You can hear all the birds in the background. And all these brambles here will give me loads of berries in the autumn, if the birds don't get them first, of course. So these are the younger trees. These will probably be more suitable when I'm building my shelter. I need lots of timber of that sort of size, that diameter. I don't want to cut down too many, but I need some suitable timber for this shelter that I want to build. So it looks like I'll have to come up here, chop off a few limbs and drag it back down to the main campsite. With all the rain and the decent sunlight we've been having, the growth in here has gone absolutely mad. I mean, there is a footpath down there, but the brambles have just completely overgrown it. Might have a bash through there a bit later on. That's the hedge line. This is the edge of my wood. On the other side of that hedge is some fields with sheep in, and the church over in that corner that's just been sold for £50,000. Somebody's going to have a very nice little 2-bed house over there. I'll see if I can get a shot of that later. Back up to the border with the neighbouring wood now. So this is my neighbour's footpath going down there. All very neat and open. And then this is my footpath. This is what happens when you're working full time. This is what happens when you're semi-retired. You come up here every weekend with a bunch of other people and lots of tools. Still, I do what I can with the time I have. Excuse the person with the motorbike driving it up in the distance. So there's a field with a sheep in, and that's the church, or chapel should I say. So that was recently up for auction with a guide price of £50,000, being sold by the Church of England. Whether anybody will be able to turn it into a house, or they'll have to make it into a community centre or something, I don't know. But it's a lovely little spot. You can see in the distance there again the hills of the Long Mynd. A lovely place for anybody to come and live, despite the people revving up their motorbikes in the distance. There is a spring here, so I do have a source of water. It's not currently very usable. Down here there's a little spring, covered by an old rotten pallet at the moment. But down there, if I cleaned that up, I'd have water. Obviously you'd want to boil it first. But apparently the previous owners used it for water for their dogs. And it seems to be there all year round, some water at least. Down the path here, the ground's always really wet, so the water from that little spring must come down here. It's always muddy around here. Obviously it's overgrown at the moment. The ground here is quite damp, so that's where the water for my site comes from. Further over in the distance there is a stream runs through, but that's not actually on my bit of the property, so I just bring bottled water with me. I don't really want to risk water out of that spring until I have it cleaned up, and then I'd only really want to use it for giving to the dogs. A bit further down the track, got a little bench here. I'm going to sit and contemplate life in a woodland. And over here, I've got a rather strange feature through all the bracken. I still don't really know what this is. I don't know how well it comes up on the camera. This is a crater, is the only word I have for it. It's about 30 foot, 40 foot across. I'm standing on one edge, and there in the centre of the screen is the far edge. And then down there at the bottom, there's no sign of what sort of feature this is, whether it's part of mine workings, old mine workings. I mean, obviously it's been a long time. These trees have grown up in the middle of this crater, but it's about, I guess, 15 foot deep, 20 foot deep maybe. Very odd. I thought maybe somebody had dropped a bomb here, World War II. Must have been a big one to make a hole this big. But sometimes when they were coming back, they had bombs that they needed to get rid of to save weight, save fuel, so they could get back home. Just drop a bomb in the middle of nowhere, and this really is the middle of nowhere. So perhaps that's what it was. Other than that, I can only think it's something to do with old mine workings or quarrying, but never been explained.